This is my first ever tripod, and despite it having been through the wars, it's something I've kept because it's seen so many shoots, and this has helped me generate so much money for our production company. Now, obviously, as time's gone on, we've invested in more and more equipment, and I want to talk you through some of the pros and cons and things to think about when investing in a tripod. Ultimately, I want to make sure that by the end of this video, you're choosing the right tripod for you, and you've got all the information you need to invest your hard-earned money. So something that not many people talk about is payload, and what payload is and why it's important is because it's the amount that the tripod legs can take with your camera sitting on top of it. So if you've got a big production camera like ours that weighs about 7 or 8 kilograms, then you've got to make sure you've got some strong legs that can actually hold that. There's no point in having something like this because, well, it's not going to end very well for your camera. Now, just because I've talked about a big production camera doesn't mean that your little DSLR, if you're just starting out, is going to be suited to this type of tripod either. So ultimately, you need to have a look at how much your camera weighs with a lens, a cage, and all of the other things and adapters that you've got on it. And then when you're looking into tripods, you should make part of your buying decision based on what the payload is for that tripod. And don't forget, you want to future-proof yourself if you can. If you're investing some money into a tripod, generally speaking, if you buy cheap, you are going to buy twice. And this is something that's going to sit with you forever. Now, this is the tripod that I bought second to that one in the background, and I've had this for the longest time. It's traveled the world with me, and I'll talk you through some of the reasons that I bought this in a moment. But ultimately, I knew that it had a solid payload, and it would mean that I would be able to use my future cameras that I didn't yet own on this type of tripod. And you'll notice that there's two main different types of tripods. You've got these ones. These are pretty much for photographers or as good as holding a teleprompter. I wouldn't really put your camera on here because it's so limited. It is small, it is lightweight. We do just use this for a teleprompter. Technically it is a tripod, but not really a good one for cameras. And I see so many filmmakers when you're starting out, and I don't blame you because I'll get into budget in a moment, but it's just not safe. It's not a safe thing to have your camera on, and also you're not going to be able to get pans and all the rest of it. At least with the one that I started out with, this one has got a fluid head. So that's something you want to think about. If you're going to be doing pans and tilts and things like that, then you want something that's got a fluid head. Basically means there's some fluid in there, it all moves very smoothly, and it gives you really nice panning motions. Now, obviously this is a very basic version of what I've upgraded to here, which this is the Manfrotto 502. And in essence, it's just a beefier, nicer working version. Manfrotto do lots of different types of their tripod heads, but this is the one that I've decided to choose as well. Now, before we get into budget and what I think that you should invest, depending on whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or expert in this kind of area and what brands you should look at, I want to talk about the actual tripod head itself, because you can buy the tripod head separate to the tripod legs. So for instance, this is a Gitzo carbon fiber tripod legs, and it's a Manfrotto tripod head, and that just slots in there like that. Now that is just a standard tripod head. Something like this is what they call a ball head, and that's because it quite simply is a ball. If I was to take that out, it's a ball and socket joint. You can loosen it off here, and you can make some adjustments. Now, with this tripod, we have a real love-hate relationship. I got this because when I used to travel and I was on the side of a mountain filming skiing and snowboarding, it was really easy to quickly set up the tripod legs, level it up, which that might be level if you're on the side of a mountain, going by the little indicator here, the little spirit level bubble, and you'd be good to go. What's happened over time is it just doesn't lock very well. When you're turning, everything moves. It never really sits right. So personally speaking, I much prefer a standard tripod head with a set of legs than I would going down a ball head route. But again, it's important for you to know what type of work are you going to be doing. Are you going to need something that is really lightweight and need to spend some money into carbon fiber? Do you have a light or a heavy camera? And also, are you going to benefit from a ball head where you can quickly, easily adjust it? Or have you got a bit of time to actually adjust the tripod legs to do the same job? So in my very first tripod, my buying decision was quite simply, I need a tripod. Fluid head is good, so I'm just going to buy the cheapest fluid head tripod I've got. And it did well, probably lasted about 2 or 3 months before it broke, and then I bought actually the same one again. I did that probably about 3 times, which meant I should have actually just invested in a proper tripod to begin with. So you want to think about that investment and making it future-proof. I then decided, because I was doing lots of traveling, to get this Gitzo tripod. It was carbon fiber, so it was lightweight, which meant that when I was traveling in my bags and stuff, it was completely good. I can unscrew these and put spikes on the end for if I'm on snow, and I can also separate the top from the legs, meaning that when I travel again, I can make it smaller, lightweight, and move that stuff around in my bag. So that was a really important factor to me, and that's why I chose this one ultimately over anything else that's bigger and maybe more rigid. So budget wise, what should you expect to spend for a tripod, and give you some good brands to go along with this as well. If you are a complete beginner, my advice is to spend as much as you can to future proof that journey, going from perhaps a DSLR all the way up through to a bigger production camera, especially when you add more lenses and cages and all of that stuff on down the line. With that said, if you're spending somewhere between $100 and $200, I would say is probably a good thing to get started with. And brands that might fit into that is probably going to be newer, potentially small rig as well. And there's a few other smaller companies out there like Velbon and people. You'll just have to have a look at reviews on that side of things. The middle range really is going from that kind of £300 mark up to maybe £1,000, and you might think, well, actually that sounds like a lot. And that's because it really depends on the type of tripods. These tripod legs alone were about £1,000, and the tripod head I think was a couple £100. You can kind of convert this into dollars as well. So in that middle kind of area, you're starting to get into more serious video production. You have some slightly bigger cameras, and you're starting to have things that serve the purpose of the stuff that you're filming. With that in mind, I would probably look at Manfrotto. I think that they're a really good, solid household name brand. And for the most part, despite my love-hate relationship with the other tripod, I actually think they're a pretty solid brand to go with and have a really good reputation. And then the top end of the market, when we're looking at real high-end production, that's where normally there's a huge amount of weight to the tripods as well to keep it as solid and as still as possible. Lots of other fancy stuff going on. Obviously, I don't actually have experience other than using friends' tripods that fit that criteria. I generally think you're looking at, again, £1,000 or more. And that's where I'd be really looking at something very specialist, depending on the type of work that I do. For example, a Satchel tripod is a really good name brand for those much higher end productions. And again, once you've got an idea of what it is that you want to shoot and the type of rigs that you've got, then I would certainly invest into that. Now, for most of you watching, I think you're going to be either in beginner, intermediate brackets in terms of spending money on tripods. The main thing to look at is just the payload. Understanding, is your very expensive camera that you sit on top of this tripod going to fall over? Is it going to malfunction, or is there going to be a problem? Because otherwise you end up with a very expensive mess on the floor. I'd love to know, out of curiosity, what tripod do you currently have if you're looking to currently upgrade? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be intrigued to see what brands you guys are buying. And if you want to see more about the equipment side of our business and how we run a production company, then take a look at this video right here. This one showcases the things that I pack in my bag from both a simple shoot and then a more complex one as well. So definitely take a look at that if you want an insight into what kind of equipment we own as a production company. Take care. I'll see you next time. Peace.